Hi guys, in this video today we'll be talking about the meninges, what the different parts are, and what they do. I will start off by drawing the two hemispheres of the brain, and then we'll go around and talk about the different layers of the meninges and their functions. So these are the two extremely asymmetrical hemispheres of the brain, and let's talk first and foremost the layer that is deepest. So the layer that is directly surrounding the brain. So I have my brain in the center, and I drew a line directly outside the brain. It's almost as if this membrane is actually clinging to the brain itself. This layer is called the Pia Mater. The word Pia means gentle, so this layer is a very gentle, thin layer that is essentially touching the brain. It sticks very tightly to the brain as well as the spinal cord. In my picture, I drew just a brain, but it's very important that we keep in mind that the meninges are also surrounding the spinal cord. It's not only the brain that is protected by the meninges, the spinal cord is also very well coated with the Dura, Arachnoid, and Pia Mater. The next layer that is superficial to the Pia Mater is known as the Arachnoid Mater. The word arachnoid means spider. And a lot of people think that the arachnoid matter actually looks like a series of spider webs or cobwebs. So let's draw that in and make it look have a thread-like extension cobweb appearance. The arachnoid matter is not touching the Pia Mater. In fact, we have a layer in between. It's not exactly a layer, but more of an empty space. And this empty space, I'll come back to it later, is full of cerebrospinal fluid. So let's write this in now. My orange layer is the arachnoid matter. Again, arachnoid means spider, and this middle layer looks very much like a spider web. Our final layer of meninges is the layer that is the most superficial. So the layer that is closest to the brain is Pia, then we have arachnoid, and our final layer is a thick, strong layer known as the Dura Mater. The Dura Mater is extremely thick, very, very tough. That's what the word dura means. It means tough. And I always think of dura as sounding like durable. It's a very durable, steady, firm layer, and it is actually double layered. The Dura Mater can be separated into two layers, one of them being periosteal, closer to the bone, and one of them being meningeal, closer to the other layers of meninges. That's pretty much it for the meninges, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the subarachnoid space and the cerebrospinal fluid. But first, let's do a quick review of all three meninges. So my most superficial meninge was called the Dura Mater. The Dura Mater has two layers, the one closer to the meninges being called the meningeal layer, and the layer closer to the bone on the outside called the periosteal layer. Dura Mater is extremely durable, and deep to that we have the arachnoid matter. Arachnoid matter looks like a cobweb or a spider web, and it lies between the Dura and the Pia Mater. Deep to the arachnoid matter is the Pia Mater, which is extremely gentle, very, very delicate, and it lies directly outside the brain and the spinal cord. It's almost clinging to the brain and the spinal cord. One more thing about the meninges is that if they are ever inflamed, this is what results in meningitis. Anything that ends with the four letters itis or itis means inflammation of. For example, hepatitis is the inflammation of the liver. And in this case, meningitis is inflammation of the meninges. One more thing that I would like to talk about is the cerebrospinal fluid. So I mentioned previously that we can find cerebrospinal fluid between the arachnoid matter and the Pia Mater. This area in between the arachnoid matter and the Pia Mater is deep to the arachnoid matter. Because it's deep to the arachnoid matter, we call it the subarachnoid space. Sub meaning below. For example, the word submarine means below the water. So in this case, subarachnoid space means below the arachnoid matter. And I mentioned this before, but the subarachnoid space is full of a fluid. This fluid is called CSF, or cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid can also be found in the ventricles of the brain, and it's produced by a structure called the choroid plexus. Because the cerebrospinal fluid contains ions as well as vitamins, it's quite similar to the plasma of the blood. As I mentioned, it has a watery composition, which allows it to serve as a fluid in which the brain can kind of float. You can think of a round, bubbly structure, bubble-like, with thick layers of meninges, and within you'd have the very, very precious brain. And because the brain is so precious, you don't want it to hit the sides of the bone, which would cause damage to the brain and eventually cause something called a concussion. Because we absolutely do not want this to happen, the brain needs to be suspended. It needs to be floating in some kind of fluid, and cerebrospinal fluid serves that purpose. It is essentially a structure in which the brain can float around in to prevent concussion or hitting against the bone. Again, the cerebrospinal fluid is found in the subarachnoid space, as well as the ventricle, but most importantly in the subarachnoid space, which is deep to the arachnoid mater and superficial to the Pia Mater. That's pretty much it for all of our meninges as well as our cerebrospinal fluid. I really hope you find this video helpful, and thanks for watching.